Hello, Algebra 1 students. We are going to start 1.5 today. It's called equations. This is probably going to be a little bit easier for you guys because we are solving for variables now. And most of you guys have been probably doing this for quite some time. So we're just going to go ahead and dive right into example 1. So before we get going, I have all the directions for you pretty much. The first step for example 1 is pretty much going to be either we add or subtract first, and then we're going to multiply or divide, one or the other, in that order. So add or subtract first, and then multiply or divide. Our goal here is to get the variable by itself. We can check our work too at the very end, so we can do that with our calculators. So I'm going to highlight what we need to solve here for example 1a. So it says 2q plus 5 equals 13. We need to get that q by itself, okay? So remember, like I said, we need to add or subtract first. So you need to first figure out what is being added or subtracted to the q. And I know most of us know how to do this already, but there are some people that have trouble with this. So let's figure out and dissect everything that's happening in this problem. So this 2 is actually being multiplied to the q. It's not being added or subtracted. Okay, and this 5 is being added to the equation, right? It's being added to q, I mean. So we got to figure out what's being added, subtracted, and we're going to do the opposite operation of that. So right now, the 5 is being added to the q. So the opposite operation of adding is subtraction. Okay, so we're going to subtract the 5. Some people may say we need to subtract the 2 from the q, but you can't do that because the 2 is actually multiplying, like I said. So this cancels out, and we are left with 2q equals 8. All right. So we did step 1, okay? We add or subtract. Now we are on step 2. We either multiply or divide. So once again, this 2 is multiplying to the q. So we got to do the opposite operation of that, which is division. So we're going to divide this by 2. All right, please don't think that we are subtracting by 2 because remember, like I said, the 2 is multiplying to the q. So if you were thinking that, make a note that it is not happening. And q equals 4. Okay. We could check our work really quickly just by plugging in the 4, right? Plug in the 4, see if it actually equals 13. So 2 times 4 is 8 plus 5, that equals 13. All right. We can also put this into our calculator, and it should do the workout for us. Okay. Let's move on to B here, and let's figure out what the 8 and the 7 are doing to the m. That 8 is multiplying. It's multiplying to the m, and that 7 is subtracting, right? Remember, the first step is to add or subtract first, okay? So the 7 is subtracting, so we're going to do the opposite operation of that guy, and we are going to add 7. And what we do to one side, we have to do to the other side to keep it balanced. I forgot to mention that. And I think we all kind of know that already. Sorry if I skipped that and people wanted to hear that. So this should cancel out, negative 7 plus 7. We're left with 8m equals 24, okay? And this 8 is multiplying to the m. So we're going to do the opposite operation, which is, yes, you guessed it right, divide. So we're going to get m equals 3, okay? And I don't want you guys to think that the very last step is always to divide, okay? We're going to have some where we have to multiply too. And let's quickly check our work here. So 8 times 3 minus 7. 8 times 3 is 24. Minus 7, yeah, that equals 17. This works out. Okay, let's move on to C here. So for C, a little bit different. We have to get rid of those parentheses. So in order to do that, we actually have to distribute this one, okay? Which is from our last lesson 1.4, right? So we're going to distribute that, guys. So this is 28 equals 4 plus 12d. You can drop the parentheses after you distribute because they're going to be one same thing anyways. Some of you guys may write it like this. You really don't need that. That actually confuses people. Okay. And remember, we're solving for d here. Okay. So ask yourself, what is that 4 and what is that 12 doing to the d? Right. The 4 is adding to d and the 12 is multiplying. So the first step here is we add or subtract. Right. So we're going to subtract 4. Because that 4 is addition actually, right? If it doesn't have a sign in front of it, it's positive, which means addition. We add those up, or we subtract those guys. And this is 12. Sorry, not 12. Sorry, 24. 24 equals 12D. Don't forget, we're solving for D, right? And 12 is multiplying to the D, so we are going to go ahead and divide this. And we get D equals 2. And we're going to quickly check this. 28 equals 4 times 1 plus 3 times 2. So we do the 4 plus, so 3 times 2 is 6. 1 plus 6 is 7. 7 times 4 is 28. This checks out. Cool. So, I want you guys to pause the video and try D, E, and F. Okay, pause the video and then unpause it and come back for the answer. By now you should have done D, E, and F. So I'm going to give the answer for D. So for D, Q equals 3. Right? You should add the 3 and then divide by 6. Those are the steps. For E, M equals 2. We should have subtracted 7, then divided by 9. For F, D equals 5. Should have distributed the 2, subtract 2, and then divide by 6. Those were the steps. And I hope you guys did okay with this. If you did, we are ready to move on. On to example 2. These problems look a little bit different. We have a division in this one. Same thing, we're solving for the variable, okay? So example 1A is kind of a warm-up for us. I'm going to do example 1A and B, and then I'll have you guys do C. So we're missing for the missing number that goes on top of that 3. And most of this you guys can just kind of figure out. You can kind of figure out what number goes in there. So I'm basically asking you, what number divided by 3 equals 6? So I know you guys know it's going to be 18, but mathematically how we figure that out is we actually have to do the opposite operation here of what that 3 is doing. So if you look at this 3, ask yourself, what is that 3 doing to the x? And it's dividing. So the actual opposite operation of dividing the 3 is to multiply it by 3. And what we do to one side, we have to do to the other side. And you see here, this 3 and this 3 will cancel out. In other words, it's like 3 over 1, right? So this becomes x equals 18. And we can check our work really easily. 18 divided by 3 equals 6, right? Checks out. Alright, I'm going to do B now. Hopefully that makes sense. So for B here, we have a 3 that's being added to D, and we have a 5 that's being divided. So right now, we actually have to get rid of the denominator first before we start moving that 3 over. I know some of you guys are saying, can we subtract this 3 right away? No, you can't, because there's a 5 underneath it. So before we add and subtract, we actually have to multiply right now. So we have D plus 3 over 5 equals 7. So getting rid of the denominator first. Opposite operation. That 5 is dividing into the D, right? Remember, we're solving for that guy. So we got to multiply both sides by 5 over 1 if you want, or just 5. Okay. Some people like to write that 5 over 1 so they know they can cancel out these 5s. Okay, we don't really actually multiply it on the left side. And we get D plus 3 equals 35. And it's just one last step here. That 3 is being added to the D. Opposite operation is to subtract it. And we get a solution of D equals 32. And just a quick check. 32 plus 3 over 5. So 32 plus 3 is 35 over 5, and that equals 7. Yeah, that checks out. So I want you to pause the video. Go ahead and give C a shot. By now you should have done C, and you should have gotten G equals 28. Okay, don't forget that I want to see this work, so you're going to have to take a photo of this and submit this again. I'm just going to verbally say the steps. You're supposed to you're supposed to multiply both sides by 2 and then add 6. Those 2 steps. In that order, please. Example 3. This is just a simple PAMDAS problem. So they have these variables at the very end here. It's kind of like doing the problem as if the variables weren't there. And I said, solve for this, right? But they are there. So I'm going to go ahead and just do part B first because it's easier, and then I'll have you guys do A. It's just simple PEMDAS, okay guys? Stuff that we already know. So PEMDAS, write it down vertically. This is how I did it. I know some of you guys wrote it, some of you guys didn't. Please write it out. So let's go down our list. Parentheses, definitely got some right here. Okay, so 5 minus 2, that's going to be 3. Next step is exponents. We definitely have that 9 squared, so that's 81 divided by 3. No multiplication, we're on to division. We're going to get rid of that guy. So 81 divided by 3, that is going to be 27. No addition and subtraction. We're done. Go ahead and pause the video and do A for me. Alright, by now you should have been done, but for part A, P should equal 16. Okay? So when you turn in or when you submit this to me, guys, I want to see the work for this. I just don't want to see P equals 16. You're not going to get any credit, okay, if you do that. Alright, so for example 4 here, I'm actually just going to do A and C, and then I'm going to have you guys do B and D. So we're almost done here. We're on the back page. So solutions of equations. This one's a little bit more complex, but we're still solving for variables, and we're using PEMDAS with this. So we got to do anything we can, simplify it as small as we can, and then solve for the variable, okay? So using PEMDAS, we are supposed to solve for this guy first, or break it down, right? So it's a 7 minus 4 squared is 16 minus 10. And everything else just gets rewritten, right? I'm still going to highlight this n to let you know what we're solving for. So this is 7 minus, so 16 minus 10. 16 minus 10 is just 6. If you want to put the parentheses here, you can, but we really don't need it anymore, right? Plus n equals 10. Almost done here. Okay. Next step is we go ahead and we combine those guys. 7 minus 6. Right? And it's not negative 6 times n, guys, just so you know, because it says plus n here. That's a mistake students make. Okay, all three of these terms are adding. So 7 minus 6, that's going to be a 1. We still have a plus n here. It's not 1n, it's 1 plus n, right? Right, notice I wrote plus n for every single one of these guys, and it equals 10. Alright, so the only one step we got to do here, this 1 is adding to the n, opposite operation of that is to subtract 1 on both sides. So we get n equals 9. And you can check your work, plug in 9 in for this, and you'll see that it should be true on both sides. Okay, it should equal 10 on the left side. Alright, and then let's go ahead and do C. So for part C here, you see we have variables on both sides. We have m here and we got an m here, okay? But that shouldn't scare us. Same thing, we do the PEMDAS on the left and the right side. Anything in parentheses we can add up. Let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to add up this guy and I'm going to add up this guy. 18 plus 4, 22. We could drop the parentheses because nothing's being multiplied to this. Plus m, right? It's not 22 times m. It's 22 plus m. Equals, so 5 minus 3, that's 2. And in this case, this 2 is actually multiplying to the m, for sure, okay? Alright, so we have m on the left side and we have m on the right side. Alright, so I always tell my students, always highlight, circle the m that's the bigger one. So we have 1m and we have 2m. So I need to get all the m's on the same side, okay? The equal sign is kind of like a wall, so could jump the wall and things like that using math. So we're going to go ahead and move the 1m to the right side by subtracting it. If you want to write 1m, you can do that. So like minus 1m, that usually helps. To get all the m's on the same side, and we get 22 equals 1m, or just m. Okay? There's our solution for C. Hopefully that wasn't too bad. Part B is going to be slightly challenging, and same thing with D. So I want you guys to scroll back up here. Let's go ahead and pause the video and try B. This might take some time. Okay, for part B here, you should have got n equals 3. And then for D here, this one's a little bit confusing and challenging. This one actually is no solution. This is abbreviation for it, no solution. Okay. I can show a little bit of work for B and D here, but for B and D, I'll try to do this kind of quickly, but this becomes, so 3 minus 2, that's a 1, so this just becomes 1n, or just n, plus 19 equals 5n plus 7. Let's get all the n's on one side, right? So we subtract n on both sides here, subtract 7 on both sides. Just get all the numbers on the same side too. Okay, so this cancels out, and this becomes 12 equals 4n. That 4 is multiplying to the n. Last step is to divide by 4, and that's how we get n equals 3. For D, this one's slightly challenging as well, but I want to see if you guys can do it. So in this parentheses, we go left to right, multiplication then division, right? 18 divided by 2, and there's a v outside, it's multiplying to that v, plus 10 equals, we do the 3 squared, this is going to be 9, v plus 9. So this becomes 9v plus 10 equals 9v plus 9. So let's get all the 9 v's on the same side, or get the v's on the same side. Yes, the v's cancel out. And we end up with 10 equals 9. Well, is that a true statement? No, it's completely a false statement. 10 can never equal 9. So therefore, it's a false statement, but the answer is not false. It means no solutions. That means that there's no number we could plug in for v that will hold true for this. Doesn't exist. Okay? And on to the last example. I would like it if you guys can pause it. Give this problem a shot here, and I'll give you the solution in a second. So pause it and attempt it, please. Okay, example 5. Mr. Hernandez pays $10 each month for movies delivered by mail. He can also rent movies in the store for $1.50 per title. Write and solve an equation to find the total amount he spends this month if he rents 3 movies from the store. So, Mr. Hernandez pays $10 each month for movies delivered by mail. I don't know if you guys remember this. Back in the day, Netflix used to send movies as CDs. If you guys remember what CDs are. And it was $10 a month, and you can get like a few movies, I think per week or something like that. So, and Mr. Hernandez also goes to, let's just say, a movie store and rents each movie for $1.50. And altogether, he has 2 different types of accounts here. He has one where, I guess like a Netflix account, he pays $10 a month and deliver it to him. And there's $1.50 where he goes to the store, $1.50 per movie he has to rent. So we're going to combine those 2, okay? So what don't we know? We don't know how many movies he rents, okay? So we're going to say let M equal number of movies. We don't know how many movies he rents. And we're going to figure out the cost for this month, okay? So for sure he spends $10. 100% he spends $10 on Netflix a month, okay? They just deducted from him monthly on his credit card. All right. And he goes to the store, and the store, going to a physical store, and it costs him $1.50 per movie. We don't know how many movies, so it's $1.50 times M. Okay? All right. And the second part of this question, so we wrote an equation. Now we have to solve the equation to find the total amount he spends if he rents 3 movies from the store. So if he goes to the store and he rents 3 movies this month, it's $1.50 times 3. The M is 3 now, okay? They say 3 movies. M is 3. Plus the $10 that he spends regardless on Netflix. They take that automatically if you get some movies or not. So this is 150 times 3, which is going to be 450. 450 plus the $10. So this month he spent $14. Yeah, let's make that look a little bit better. $14.50 on movies, okay, at the store and combined with the Netflix. All right, that's it. So, your classwork today, guys, was to take the notes, watch the video, and attempt the problems. You have to take a photo of this and submit it on Schoology, your notes, so I can give you some credit for it, 5 points. And then the other part of your homework assignment is to do these problems, okay? It says just solve for the variables for numbers 1 through 5 and 11 through 17. So 1 through 5, I believe they give you an equation and they say plug in all these numbers. I really don't care about that. I just want you to solve for the variable, the missing variable. 11 through 17, I believe it's the same thing. Just straight up solve for the problem. Solve for the variable. And that's pretty much it. Thanks, guys.